Vladimir Putin met with chairman of the Central Election Commission, Pamfilova, in the Kremlin. The results of a single voting day in 2025 were discussed. Have you completed your work? Yes. And you know, the election campaign was surprisingly come well, judging by how we usually characterize in peacetime. These are the usual factors. They somehow did not exist. As for the fact that we have to hold elections in extreme situations, we have learned how to do this. You know, the Ukrainian guys, they don't have enough gunpowder to hold elections. Although no one bombs their peaceful objects, they don't attack citizens, but they try to both our peaceful objects and citizens. And despite this, we are not looking for a reason to postpone the elections. That is, we are developing our democratic institutions. I want to say that the system has improved over the years. By the way, she has become incredibly stable and at the same time very dynamic. Therefore, considering what is happening in our border regions, we have taken all security measures. That is, we have maintained, on the one hand, the full openness of the system, its full transparency, but at the same time we pay great attention to security. Therefore, all the necessary reserve rooms were prepared just in case. By the way, we had to evacuate 3 polling stations in the Belgorod region, hold elections in reserve premises, and in the Bryansk region, there were false attacks, false ones, let's say, like terrorist ones. That mines were laid in Sevastopol on a number of sites. We also managed everything. Everything was well organized. For the rest, I want to say that for the first time, there is not a single complaint that needs to be considered at all by the Central Election Commission. The turnout is quite high for regional elections. If we compare it with the similar elections in 2022, it increased by 5%. That is, 46%, a fairly high turnout. This is our first time, you know. This campaign differs in many ways from the previous ones. There are several differences. For the first time, we launched our promised digital platform, an analog of the state's automated system Vibri, which has been working for 30 years. Our worthy old lady has already worked 100% without backup, without failures, without anything. In general, we are proud, because this is absolutely our software, domestic, completely our technical equipment and, let's say, constructive. Our equipment is exclusively domestic, and the most important advantage we have preserved is that it is completely isolated from the internet. That means it is not subject to any DDoS attacks. What else can I add if I can brag? Because this is a community, a commission, and people who have worked. Vitium conducted research and polls on the results of the elections. And you know, it's amazing, actually. Well, what's there to be surprised about? They deserved it. The level of trust in the elections themselves and in the quality of the elections is growing. And what is especially encouraging is a growing level of confidence in the elections and in the work of the system among young people, among the 18 to 24 age group. This is very encouraging, which means that we are not working with young people in vain. More of the differences. Remote electronic voting. Very important. This year, despite all the communication difficulties due to these UAPs, we had a record number of applications. We had remote electronic voting in 24 regions, a record number of applications, more than 1,700,000, and 90.5% voted. Such a turnout. That is, despite the outages, everything was secured, everything was done properly. Additional Wi-Fi points. It worked perfectly. There were no failures either. And I consider that such a large number of applications and the desire to vote is also an increase in popularity. It is also evidence of trust, growth of trust. But the most important difference is that this year we had a wave of elections for participants in a special military operation and very good results. These figures have not been heard anywhere yet. That is, they are new, the latest. We have 1,663 candidates who participated in the CBO. 1,035 of them were elected. There were practically no refusals. There were those who filmed themselves, but there were practically no refusals. This is a very small percentage. United Russia 882 people, the Communist Party of the Russian Federation 23, the Liberal Democratic Party, Just Russia for Truth 20, New People 6, the Party of Pensioners 3, the Republican Public Movement Tot Arston New Century 2, the Party of Growth 1, the Civic Platform 1, and 77 self-nominated candidates. This trend has emerged, and given that you have outlined this vector, which is very important, we need a new wave in politics. We do everything we need to do, and we pay special attention to our participants. And, if I may, I would like to say that we have identified several legal issues in this regard. It is necessary, apparently, to amend the law. I'll tell you more about it then. Despite the seemingly turbulent period, we are still developing and moving forward. As you know, we have 36 regions that have the status of hard to reach and remote, where we usually, say, get to the polar stations and so on. Everything is very difficult there. With this in mind, the state does a lot to get to everyone, to a reindeer herder, to a polar explorer, to a sailor, and so on. But one vote, there is about 400 times more expensive than the average in Russia. We are currently looking for ways and methods how, on the one hand, to bring this voting closer, make it more convenient, comfortable, secure, and accessible. And now we are working in parallel in two directions. We have completed several pilot projects. You already have photos, using UAVs and unmanned boats to deliver newsletters and documentation. We tried it in several regions: Sakhalin, Veliky Novgorod. Another direction is that we are currently working with Bureau 1440 to introduce remote voting where there is no internet, that is, using satellite communications. We are currently launching a pilot project with them. This removes many problems, and voting will become even more accessible. And I can't help but say a few words about the OSS. Oh dear Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, Vladimir Vladimirovich. I raised this topic last time. Why do we need them? In fact, why do we pay fees? They do not protect our rights absolutely. They do not protect the rights of journalists. They do not protect rights in all areas, including electoral rights. This is, I would say, a caricature, just a farce that is currently happening in Moldova. In any case, we, as members of this organization and our observers, as full-fledged observers, should have participated in the election observation. They did not allow any of them. They completely denied all our observers from Russia, and the OSS, oh dear, has done nothing. This is not the first time. Why do we need such an organization? It turns out that even in cases where our observers in various countries take part, you see, this organization is completely closed. It is undemocratic. It turns out that their conclusions, which were imposed from above by their, masters, taking into account how obedient or disobedient the country is for them, completely disagree, for example, with the opinion of observers, including ours, but it's not reflected in any way. It turns out that we legitimize their conclusions with our participation. I ask you to think about this again with the Foreign Ministry. I believe that this organization has completely discredited itself. All right, Ella Alexandrovna, we will definitely consult with the Foreign Ministry and with the deputies of both chambers. Let's talk and think about this topic. You're right, this kind of situation looks ridiculous when we provide all the opportunities, and in response, nothing happens on the other side. Well, God be with them. We will think separately about what to do about it. I would like to thank you and all your colleagues who, in such a difficult situation, are still conducting quite large, massive election campaigns across the country. In some places, it is difficult from an organizational point of view, and in some places, it is dangerous. Nevertheless, All the people in their places are working, doing their duty. But first of all, of course, you and I must thank the voters who, no matter what, come and cast their votes for certain parties. People understand how important this has always been for Russia. And in today's conditions, it is doubly, trebly important how important political stability is. The stability of our political system and the internal political situation. This is the basis on which we are achieving success in all areas, in the military, security, and economic spheres in all areas. Many thanks to the people who were not afraid of anything and came and did their duty. Although it sounds so trivial, it is nevertheless extremely important in today's conditions. We will now talk in more detail about the changes that you propose to make, because the electoral system is alive. It is a living organism. Of course, probably, in the course of work, there are always some things that you want to pay attention to and need to pay special attention to. And of course, this underlines the well-known principle, as you have just said from the very beginning. Those who want to do it, those who do not want to do it, are looking for reasons and reasons why nothing is being done. We really want to strengthen our political system and, despite all the difficulties, we are doing this, including thanks to your efforts and the efforts of your team. Thank you very much. I congratulate you on this.